Hi everyone, thank you for joining the webinar today, Math and Science Supports for a Remote Learning Environment. My name is Kira Harakel and I'm a member of the TextHelp marketing team, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We have a great presentation lined up today, but before we get started, I just have a couple of quick housekeeping items. Today's session is in listen-only mode, but we'd love to hear from you and answer your questions throughout the session. So feel free to type in the questions chat box of the GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll be monitoring it throughout the session. And we'll have a couple of opportunities to address those questions with our presenter, and I'll also do my best to reply to the others directly in the chat box. So feel free to test it out now. Say hello or let us know where you're joining from today, or even what you're most looking forward to learning during this webinar. Also, I wanted to let you know that the webinar today will be recorded. You'll receive a follow-up email next week on the 22nd around that date with a link to the recording as well as some additional resources, but you'll also be able to access this recording tomorrow on the landing page that you registered on, and we'll share that link later on as well. If you'd like a copy of the slides to follow along with the presentation, or if you want to take some notes, I'm going to be sharing a link to the GoToWebinar in the chat box right now, or you can also type in the URL that's displayed on the screen, which is text.help/EQ-eLearn, and this is case sensitive. So let's get the session started. I'd like to introduce you to Lois Shanafelt, who is EquatIO's product manager and evangelist here at TextHelp. Lois oversees all of EquatIO's updates and releases, and prior to TextHelp, he worked in public education in the state of Florida for over 20 years. So you're in great hands today. And without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Lois.
Thank you, Kira. So as she mentioned, and I appreciate Kira joining us on the call today, and also just so you're aware, another wonderful contributing member to marketing, Caitlin, is on the line also. So Kira and Caitlin will kind of be monitoring the chat as I go over the features of EquatIO from a remote learning perspective and talk about math and STEM. But I wanted to introduce myself here. As Kira said, my name's Lois Shanafelt, and as she stated, I oversee the product in general and meet with our development team, and I'm kind of that liaison between the customer and our development team and kind of help with the roadmap for where our product is going. So with that being said, there's some information there. I'm on Twitter. Feel free to reach out through Twitter. I try and do my best to keep up with that, as well as my email address down there at the bottom. But as Kira said, you'll get a copy of this presentation. And like she said, I'm more than happy to answer and address any concerns or questions you have about our product. Let's talk about math just in general, right? So when we think about math, we think, well, math hasn't really changed. Like the way we teach it, the items that have come into this digital world and this one-to-one learning environment, I feel personally as a former one-to-one digital instructor that math, kind of got left behind, I think is the best term. There was little to no collaboration within the current classroom structure. You see the little image there to the right about how students typically would be sitting in rows, and you'd have a teacher standing up at the board kind of giving, problems to students to try on their own with paper and pencil. And I always felt like as a digital teacher, it felt unfair almost when my students came prepared with a laptop or a device to my classroom, and I would have to tell them, well, go ahead and put away your laptop and get out a sheet of paper and pencil. So it felt like that, math got left behind because there really wasn't that tool out there that could help with that transformation into the digital world. So worksheets obviously don't allow for very critical thinking or math manipulation. They don't allow for students to be creative and explore within their own minds and to be able to make math and to create math using some of those critical thinking skills. So when we think about math in general, the nation's report card would tell you that 60% of fourth graders, score below proficiency in math, and 67% score below proficiency at the 8th grade level. So really kind of staggering numbers when you think about it. And one of the reasons why, we worked on this product that I'm going to introduce you to today, which is EquatIO, is we wanted kids to be able to explore and to be able to create math using a digital tool. and to be able to collaborate with others, which we know is extremely important in the classroom. So when we think about persistent math problems in elementary school, 13% are less likely to graduate high school, 29% less likely to attend college. And then I know, and I hear this from my own daughter, for example, who actually is a middle school student. You want them to start thinking about, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to go into engineering? Do you want to go into the STEM field? There's lots and lots of different possibilities for students. And so, some of those attitudes start to form as early as middle school. So when we can influence students and get them to express themselves and use their creative thinking skills to possibly pursue careers in STEM. So I'd like to introduce you to EquatIO. And what I typically like to do is kind of go live with this. I know Kira mentioned earlier that we're going to share the slide deck with you, but you didn't really join me to kind of go through and rifle through slides and have me read slides to you. So I'm going to kind of go live here and just demo this product. So when I demo this product, I'm just going to kind of drag my Google Doc over so you can see kind of what the flow is going to be for this next 54 minutes. As I can see by the time, we don't have a lot of time together, but I want to kind of utilize the time we do have. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of EquatIO in general. We're going to go over some math space and how you can use it in remote learning. I'm going to talk about how parents could even use math space. I know, for example, my son, who's obviously in this distance learning environment, much like a lot of the students you're currently working with, his teachers, having trouble sending home enough work. So parents are kind of struggling in terms of, well, what else can I have if my son's completing all his weekly work by Wednesday, well, what does he do for math on Thursday and Friday? And some parents are having to try and supplement. So I'm going to try and show how parents could even utilize math space and encourage students to create math. I'm also going to talk about Google Classroom, which is a very popular tool that teachers use to share and to give assignments to students, as well as Canvas, which is an LMS made by Instructure. We have D2L integration, which is also by Brightspace, and we have a Schoology integration. And then finally, I'm going to talk briefly about MathSpace. It's also available on iPad. So that is really, really big news. We actually just announced that last week, along with the D2L and Schoology integration. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up a Google Doc. And if you have EquatIO installed, you're more than welcome to click on the extension and kind of have this not really be a sit and get, more of something that you can participate in, and I would encourage that. But if you don't, and you're just wanting to kind of watch me make some math and STEM content today, that's perfectly fine too. So I am in just a standard Google Doc, as you can see, and I'm going to click on the EquatIO Chrome extension. Now, keep in mind that you might not be a Google customer that is on this call today. We also work on Mac OS. We work on the desktop. So if you have, Microsoft Word, we work also in Microsoft Word. We obviously work throughout the G Suite because we kind of started with that Chrome extension and then branched out to other platforms. The math space is really what we consider our EquatIO app. Okay, it's a web app, if you will, and I'm going to go into some really good things in math space and how you can use that with students who are needing some remote learning for math and STEM content. So now that you see my Google Doc, I think it's important to kind of go over what EquatIO is in terms of the input methods that we provide students. Also important to know that EquatIO was built on UDL principles. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we're trying to allow students to create math how they're comfortable creating math. We don't want to tell them there's only one way to do this, because we know in mathematics there's multiple ways to do things, and we want to give them the freedom and the choice, and choice in digital is very important, that students can choose any of these input methods to express themselves and make math. So with that being said, I'm going to go through the menu really quick, and then we're going to go through and start making some math together. So now that the extension is loaded here at the very bottom, I'm going to click on the lower corner here on the blue EquatIO button, and I'm going to notice that I have a place to click and on the options button. So I'm going to click on options, and then I'm going to click on math options. And you might be wondering, well, why are we going through the menu first? I think it's important to know that if you're a teacher and you're standing up at the board, for example, or you're at your house, for example, like many of us are, and you want to make the math either bigger or smaller on the page, this is the place to do it. A lot of users struggle with trying to figure out how our math can become either bigger or smaller. And I wanted to show you that the font size can be changed to any of these font sizes here. It's also important to know because we probably have, we have actually a couple hundred people on the webinar today and more than 600 that have registered for this. So not everyone is going to prefer the English language here. We also have English in the UK, we have Spanish, and we have French language available. Also, what's important here, when you first download and install EquatIO, it's important to know that when you install it for the first time, the only thing that's going to be toggled on under prediction is this right here under math. So if you're trying this for the first time, I would highly, highly encourage you to toggle on the other two buttons. If you go to access formulas, for example, and they don't work or they don't show up, you won't know why. So it's important to coach and mentor if you're helping other teachers learn this product to make sure that you tell them to toggle these to the on position. Go ahead and select save. And now we can get ready and make some math. So I'm going to go to the first box here, which is your equation editor. And to be honest with you, this is probably one of my favorite input methods here. I can go into this box and I can just begin typing the types of math that I want to make. So I'm going to try and start small here and go with like an elementary approach. So let's say, and I don't think, well, I know I didn't ever teach third grade, but I taught fifth grade math for several years. And I know that, at least in the state of Florida where I currently live, we have things like 3-digit multiplication and long division, and we have lots of fractions and things like that that come up like in third and fourth grade. So how do you do those types of things using this product when kids are learning from home? Well, we actually have what's called matrices, and you can access those all by clicking on the More button. Now, if I click on the More button, I can go over here and go to Layout. And when I go to Layout, look at the different types of things that we have embedded in our product. So let's say, for example, and I'm just going to give this scenario that I am a third grade teacher and I'm teaching 3-digit multiplication. So watch how when I select this, look how EquatIO here is providing these gray boxes for students to be able to make their math. So watch how easy this would be if I was a math teacher. And the best thing really about this, in my opinion, is we're providing the boxes which help with what? The alignment. So we know student handwriting can be challenging at times. And when we go to multiply this out, we're providing these gray boxes so students can express themselves and make the math. So I can easily go here and say 7 times 7 is 49. So I might have a 4 here, and then I would carry the 4 up here. So, you can use different commands here, like the strike through method. So let's say I'm borrowing. Actually, we'll back out of this multiplication problem. I always love to show this too, like the subtraction of 3-digit problems. So what if I did something like this? I love showing this because I like showing our strike through methods here. So if I need to take 9 from 8, I can't do that. So I would need to strike through that 6. So let's go back to More. I'm under the General button, and look how easy it is to just strike through the 6. I can make it a 5, and then this. I always, would encourage my students to strike through this too and just rewrite it in general. And then you would have the ability, and by the way, notice how my math is kind of disappearing. If you go here, there's 3 dots, and you can drag this up to give yourself some more space. And I can go through here and complete this problem. Because of time, I'm obviously not going to complete this problem. It just takes too long. But this is a way we can use EquatIO in elementary where students could solve math problems. When I'm done with this problem and I've calculated everything I need to calculate, I can just come over here and click Insert Math and watch how that just automatically gets inputted into a Google Doc. And obviously the Google Doc, what's important about the G Suite and our product integrating with that is it can obviously easily be shared. Of course, I can always share this through Google Classroom or an LMS that I might be using. Let me show you another one here that I love for like elementary school. We even have in here long division. So what if I was doing long division? Notice in my prediction box, I only typed in LONG. When I typed in LONG, the prediction saying, I think Louis wants to do long division here. So I can just easily click on this and look, I have, again, a place for my quotient, my dividend, and all that good stuff that comes with solving these types of problems. So I can type in 56 and I can start solving this math. So 5 goes into 5, one time, and I can just use my arrow keys and my spacebar keys to make more math. If I want to say, well, how do I get down below the 56? You just tap the enter key. So we have kind of a smooth transition to go down to line 2. Also in our equation editor, so let's go a little bit higher than, let's say, elementary school. What if I'm typing in like algebraic expressions? So one thing that I also taught was algebra honors, and secondary math. So if I was having students create algebraic expressions like 3x squared, how do I do a superscript? I often found myself as a math teacher teaching keyboarding skills instead of math sometimes. So what if I typed in 3x SQ? And look what happens when I typed in SQ. It's saying, hey, Louis, what do you want out of our prediction engine? What will make this fast for you? And I can just click with my mouse, or I can just hit enter. And look at that superscript bounce right up there above that X. What about the plus key? I mean, even some of the plus and minus keys, kids are having to hold down the shift key. What if I want the plus key, but I don't want to find the plus button? I can just type in PL and just tap enter. So 3x squared plus 3y equals EQ 7, let's say. And then how do I make more math underneath this? Well, I can hit enter and look how I now have a second line of math. Also, what's really awesome here is look what just popped up. I have all these alignment features. So let's say I'm solving this one for y, for example. So 3x SQ, and I need to subtract that on both sides to isolate the variable. And I do that, and then I hit enter again. And now I'm left with 3y equals negative 3x squared plus 7. And notice how I can then start to divide this out. So if I wanted to divide this, I could just come over here and hit the front slash key down near shift to make a fraction, and then put 3. And then I could divide all of this out, do the front slash key and hit 3, and then I could simplify. And again, I could just hit enter, and notice how I can just easily create and make math on this digital Google Doc. So the alignment features, let's show that real quick. So this is already left adjusted here. So if I left adjust, it's not going to do anything because it already is left adjusted. It's not going to move a whole lot here when I center this, but take a look. Notice how the others got in alignment with the center of that bottom one. I can right adjust it, so it'll right adjust. I can align by relation. So let's say I have lots of algebraic expressions and I wanted to line things up by the equal sign, for example. I could line things up by relation. I can add more rows, add more columns. So again, this is just one other way to use the equation editor. So there is some more math that I made. Let's open this back up again. Think about all the different formulas in math. So let's say I'm doing the area of a parallelogram. I type in area, and look, we have all the formulas in here. So I can just click on it, and then I can work the problem. Or what if I want something a little more advanced, like the quadratic formula? So an algebra formula, commonly used. Look how easy it is to make the quadratic formula. I mean, really, when you think about this, what's the alternative? How else am I making math digital inside of a Google Doc? Well, you certainly could go up to the insert button in a Google Doc, click on equation, and then you could use this. Well, this is a math editor that Google claims is a math editor, and I love Google. I'm a Google certified trainer, and there's lots and lots of things to love about Google, but this math editor is just not going to cut it for me as a math teacher or a math student. So there's just not enough here. Okay, what if I needed to do something way more advanced, like the correlation coefficient of sample? Look how easy that was to replicate and put into a Google Doc. Again, how did I do that? Well, all I did was type in the name of the formula, but did I really type in the entire name? C-O-R-R. It's all I typed. And look, our prediction engine is saying, we think you want that formula, and you just click on it. Insert that math, and then I'm gonna close this toolbar, and let me go back here. Let's insert that one more time, and take a look. I now have that math right there in a Google Doc. How long would it take you to make this formula using this math editor, right? I mean, there's just not really any other products out there that work quite like ours. We also, just in case you're wondering, this is not just a math webinar, it's a STEM webinar, right? So what if I wanted to access aluminums and I'm making compounds in chemistry class? So look at all the different types of aluminums here. So I'm gonna do aluminum arsenate, and look at that. We're gonna provide that chemical compound for students, and maybe I want the compound to yield heat when it's combined with another type of compound. So I go here, chlorine tetroxide, and look at that. So we can make different types of math using chemical compounds as well. Well, let me insert that so you all can see that, and give that just a second. And look, I didn't move my cursor. Sometimes I make that mistake. So notice how that also can be put right into a Google Doc for the STEM teachers out there. So that's kind of just a quick overview of our equation editor. This is just one way that students can make math though. Let's go to our LawTech editor. I typically don't spend a lot of time on this, especially for a webinar like this. But if you're a LawTech person and you love making LawTech, which is a math typeset language, you're free to go ahead and make LawTech. Look how I can use EquatIO's prediction engine though over here. When I click here, that right there. I mean, I don't know how many of you on this call today went to school to learn that, but if you didn't, no need to use the LawTech editor. We just want you to know that it's there for those users that are interested in making LawTech with our product. One of our other most widely used features within product is our graph editor. Why? And you'll see as soon as I open it up, look at that. So our graph editor, how else are you guys really in a math or science classroom going to get a coordinate plane into a Google Doc quickly? And how do you do that? Well, you're probably going to go out to Google Images. You're going to check the copyright, right? When you search for a coordinate plane, you're going to make sure you can use that image, copy that image, paste that image into the Google Doc. Well, no need to. Look at our product. We integrate, and we're powered by Desmos here, which is a popular ed tech graphing tool. And watch how easy it is. I helped actually my daughter with this yesterday as she responded to her teacher, and look how I can easily just drop coordinates in. I know I taught coordinate planes as a former 5th grade teacher, and you might go, well, how come only 1 point shows? It's because I need to zoom out just a little bit here, and notice I can click and I can see those points, and then I can insert that graph right into a Google Doc. So watch this when I click insert graph. And look how easy it is to put a coordinate plane into a Google Doc and use this. If we want to get a little bit higher ed here and we think to ourselves, let's go algebra here and think, what if I want to do slope intercept form? So 1/4 x minus 2. And I'm doing y equals mx plus b. So here is a line showing the slope of this line. So I can also click insert graph here, and kids could do slope intercept form, from a remote learning standpoint, and send those graphs back to the teacher. So really, really great, powerful things within our graph editor. I would highly encourage you to take a look at that if you've never seen that before. I also love the idea that not only can kids express themselves using the equation editor, the graph editor. I know, for example, my son absolutely loves drawing and doing artwork on an iPad. Well, we also have a handwriting recognition integration here as well. So what if I wanted to do something like 2y, and don't make fun of my handwriting here, 2y cubed minus 2y squared equals, this is hard to do with a mouse. I promise you this is easier with a stylus if you're using a touchscreen device, But look how great that is. 2y cubed minus 2y squared equals 8. And we took the handwriting and we made digital math out of it. So our handwriting recognition tool will recognize, hopefully, the handwriting. If it didn't recognize the handwriting, so let's say, for example, that this was just supposed to be 2y, and the student made a mistake and put a squared here, you can simply go over to here, and you can go ahead and delete that item before inserting that into the Google Doc, right? So I can then edit this, and then I will insert that into the Google Doc. So remember, this can be collapsed. There is a lower threshold here, so you might have to close it entirely. The math should be made behind the image. So really, really great stuff with our handwriting recognition tool. We also have speech input. So let's give this a try as well. And notice how, and I hear this like even from my daughter's bedroom, she gets a little lazy sometimes, doesn't really want to type in her ELA class. So what does she do? She goes up to her Google Doc, turns on her voice recorder, says what she wants the Google Doc to record for her. So she does her whole speech to text. Well, this is more speech to math. So our math engine is listening for you as you record math, and it's listening for math terminology. So keep in mind, if you said something like, hey, Johnny, go back to your seat, it's not going to recognize math there. It will recognize the to, because you said, Johnny, go back to your seat. So it will probably recognize the to because it's literally just listening for math. But it is designed to eliminate ums and ers and stutters and things like that. So let's give this a try. 4x squared plus 2y equals 16. And then I can hit that stop button, 4x squared plus 2y equals 16. So it recognized everything I said perfectly. I can add more lines here. It's actually really cool to show this too. Like, what if I just made the math using speech on line 1? And then I said, I kind of want to go back and use the equation editor for line 2. Can I do that? Is it going to remember the math that I made in speech? So you can click on the equation editor and look, there that is. And I can hit the enter key. And if it's basically like a multimodal approach, you can actually bounce over to the handwriting if you wanted to, and I could start doing handwriting on this line, and whatever I make will go down here in line 2, wherever your cursor is, okay? So that's really, really good stuff as well. EquatIO Mobile, we're going to pass on that for now, at least for this webinar. I have things about EquatIO Mobile. So this is where students can use a tablet or a mobile device, and they can insert math into digital documents. But it takes a good 10, 12 minutes to demo, and we really don't have that time today. But if you're interested in more about EquatIO Mobile, I'd be happy to send you a video on how to use that. I'm going to skip over to inserting of math spaces, which is really, really great. I love this tool. So I'm anxious to show you this. So in this webinar today, the goal is to really show you math space and the 2 ways you can use it. So just so you all are aware, I'm going to show you the first way, and I'm going to show you 1 way to use math spaces right now. I'm going to show you a second way in just a few minutes. That being said, let's look at inserting of math space. Notice when I go to insert math into a doc, I can open the math space, and this gives me a blank open canvas that allows you, the teacher, or you, the student, to go ahead and make math. What's impressive about this is you have a new toolbar down here. Take a look where I'm hovering with my mouse. You now have a select tool, a freehand drawing tool, you have a shapes tool, and you have a smart shapes tool. So watch as I open the shapes tool. Take a look at the different shapes that are on this front page here, but what I really want you to do is to utilize the More Shapes button and watch as I scroll down all the different things that we have in here for elementary students, for middle school students. May not be a ton for high school, but we definitely have lots and lots of different things for STEM. So we have switches, we have diodes, we have all sorts of different things like resistors and light bulbs. So more for like upper level science classes, fuses, cells, logic gates, and things like that. But think about all the different ways you could insert any of these shapes. Like as a former 5th grade math teacher, I mean, if I drew a cylinder on a math space and I said, go to the equation editor and I want kids to find the area, let's say, of the cylinder. You know, I can search for those formulas in here. I can go and drop in a circle if I want to. You can change the colors here if you want to. I can go and, you know, anything. Just think about anything that you can do. Now, you're going to have to kind of put on your instructional design brains here and kind of think, you know, this is going to take some time. And I'm not going to lie to you. This might take some time for you to design some math spaces that students can respond to. But once you have them, think about how you could reuse them from year to year and improve on these math spaces. So I just wanted to drop a few things into a math space. Now take a look up here. This is where the math space is going to go to. Look, it's linked to this Google Doc that I've been working in with you all since the beginning of this webinar. So I'm going to come over here. Most people, even me, have made the mistake and tried to insert here, but I promise you it's up here in the top right, and click insert and watch how the math space that I made can be inserted right into that Google Doc. So that's really, really cool. Anything that I make in math space can go right into a Google Doc, Google Drawing, Google Sheets, Google Slide presentation. So however you wanted to utilize that math space. One other thing I wanted to show here, and then we're going to get into this remote learning piece and kind of conclude this overview. This is our screenshot reader. I mean, this is an incredible, incredible tool. Watch how I can just drag a capture box around that math. And let's see if I can change my audio here. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second here. Let's see if I can get this audio to play through for you all. No, I know why it's not. I wanted to play this out loud for you to show how students can hear this math as it's being played aloud. Let's give it one more try.
2y cubed minus 2y equals 8.
So hopefully you were able to hear that okay. Sorry about that. It's difficult when you're wearing a headset to toggle to the speakers that are on your table here. So notice how I can drag a capture box around that math. I could also drag a capture box around more complicated things. So I could drag it around really anything. So I can drag it around here, and EquatIO will read that math out loud.
3 lines, line 1. 3x squared plus 3y equals 7, line 2.
So you get the idea. It can read that math aloud. A lot of kids obviously don't like raising their hands multiple times for students to repeat things. Especially as you get to higher level mathematics, parents will be unable to help their children at home. So think about the ways we could use the screenshot reader to have that math read aloud. Okay, we're going to try something I've never tried in a webinar before. We're going to see if you guys are good at doing some homework for me. So I would really, really love for you to attempt this. We'll see how it goes. What I would love for you to do is, if you're interested in participating in this, and we only have like about 2 minutes here, but it's an easy problem that I gave you all. Could you all go up to a browser window if you have a browser available? And what I really would like you to type in is tinyurl. I don't think you need the first part. So let's just do tinyurl.com/EquatIO414, and I believe that's being put into the chat box for you, which it is. So Kira just dropped that, and it's actually perfect. So it's actually hyperlinked right in the chat box. So if you open your chat box and go to webinar and just click on the link, it should open a math space for you. And what I would really, really love for you to do is, I'd love to show you the workflow for math space. So I really think this could help you all as you try to, change the way you're teaching in these difficult times, and how you're trying to assist students at their house currently. So this is a math space that I created, and I am going to show you the math space here. So I am going to go in here, and you should have gotten a math space that looks like this. Something that looks like this. So what I did is I thought, how could a first grader, I get lots of people that go, EquatIO is just for higher ed kids. And I'm like, no, you really haven't thought outside the box here. Like, I know this can be used in K to 12 and even higher ed, but it is not a product that's solely limited to kids that are in middle and high school and upper level math. This can be easily used. My son loves this. He loves to play in math space. So what I did is I shared this with you, and I asked you all to click and place 37 cents into the piggy bank. So hopefully you guys were all able to drag some coins, okay? Drag some coins over And what you're going to do is you might have gone, well, how do I make another penny? Some of you that have used MathSpace before, you probably were privy to this, but if you're not, you can click on the penny, go to copy, and you can go to paste. And look how I can click, 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 and I can make 100 pennies if I want to, but all I really need is 2 for this particular example. It would help if I counted right too. So 35 and 36 and 37. And now what I would love for you all to do is you are going to have a button here. Your button looks different than mine, and that's okay. You should see a paper airplane. I like to call it a paper airplane. I want you to send that to me. So everyone take that 2 minutes. You probably already had enough time. Go ahead and hit that send button to me. Now, why did I go this route with you all? Well, what I wanted to do is to show you what this workflow looked like. And we're going to come back to this in just a second. So what I wanted to do is to take you to a website, and you all can jot this down on a sticky note or bookmark it. I mean, for me, I'd be bookmarking it. It'd be something I would use every day with my kids because there's so much potential here for teachers to be able to create these. And I'll tell you, I had a teacher this morning say, it's too difficult for me to jump into MathSpace right now and start creating. And I thought, boy, that's kind of limited because, teachers, we're all struggling, right, to occupy the time and to create things quick. So I could certainly sympathize with this teacher, but I said, there will be, close that, there will be a time when you want to get back to that new normalcy in your classroom, and think about the ways that you could use MathSpace if you're not ready to explore this right now. I would love to hear from you all and say how much MathSpace, though, has really changed the way you're teaching, because there's so much UDL possibility here for students to be able to be creative with their math. So take a look at my dashboard. I went to EquatIO.texthelp.com. So when I went to this website, it took me to my EquatIO dashboard, this guy right here, okay? This dashboard obviously has MathSpaces in it. Now, how did Louis get all these MathSpaces? Well, I had to create these, right? Do they take time? Absolutely, they're gonna take some time. But if you think about the ways in which you could challenge your students to make math fun and allow them to be creative, think about the possibilities of how you could use this. So I have some elementary stuff on here, to be fair, right? But I also have factoring trinomials. So this doesn't have to be limited to elementary, but I have pentominoes, naming triangles, naming shapes. I have some holiday activities, things that we've tweeted out that I've partnered up with marketing on. So we had like a St. Patty's Day one. So we have all sorts of things and ways that teachers and students could be creative and use MathSpaces. So what I did for you all, and I want to show you how I created the MathSpace today for you, is I asked you all to go to this area, right? I asked you to submit this to me. So how did I do this? How did Louis make this MathSpace? Well, I went here and I said, I need to give my students directions. I need to click on Equation Editor, and I need to click on Insert Text. And all I did, guys, was I inserted text and I said, please place, and I typed in my text, okay? I don't have time to type all this in and replicate this for you, but I typed in my text, I typed in my math, and then I inserted that text and those directions here. Now, how did I get the piggy bank on here? Well, we have a tool up here that allows me to bring files into MathSpace, right? So instead of saying, well, I'm just gonna put something boring on here where kids aren't engaged and aren't excited about math, I wanna bring an actual piggy bank into my MathSpace and have kids actually think they're dropping money into. It'd be really cool if it was interactive, right? You actually saw the change go into the top of the piggy bank. I've mentioned that to development, but we're a ways away. But so I said, well, at least the students or first graders could take the coins and drag them. Well, how did Louis get coins? Well, I went to shapes and I went to here and I selected US coins. Now, if you're Canadian, I did a demo. I actually have a demo later today, and they don't want me to use US coins. In fact, they get upset with me. So I say, all right, we got to get some Canadian coins in here. So we have UK coins, we have Australian coins. So we try to, accommodate all users of our product, and we want to make sure that they have a genuine and an authentic experience using this. So watch how I select coins, I click and I drag, and I can just drop coins in that quick. So we're not asking teachers to do some of this legwork. We're just asking them to click and investigate and explore within our product. If there's things that are not here that you'd love to see in MathSpace, you can just easily contact me and drop me a line. Click on the EquatIO menu button, click send feedback and say, hey, Louis, participated in a webinar some time ago with you. I'd love to see, X, Y, and Z in MathSpace. It would really help my students. I'll give you an example of something that was just added in. Someone said we'd really love Venn diagrams in MathSpace. So I said, okay, we'll put Venn diagrams in for you. So we have 2 and 3 and 4 circle Venn diagrams. We also had a request from the state of Texas. They're really big into using algebra tiles. So they said, hey, can you put some algebra tiles on here? And I want my students to be able to interact with algebra tiles. So we said, sure. We put algebra tiles in. So TextHelp's real big on believing and working with our customers and giving them a great experience so they can create math with their students. So give me some suggestions of things you want to see inside of MathSpace. And this here is what I did for you guys. So up here, remember, I'm the teacher. You guys are all just participated as the students for me. And I asked that this MathSpace be shared. So let's go through this one more time. I clicked on this button and it says, what do I want to do with this MathSpace? Well, I want to share it. And when I click on share, I can go to make a copy for every person, or I can click here and go, I want to make a copy for every person, and I want them to reply to me. So that's what I chose for you all in this webinar. So I said, I want you to generate a link that's going to ask users to expect a response. Notice the asterisk. This is only for premium users of EquatIO. And when you click on continue, it'll give you a link. And all I did, guys, was I took that link and I made a tiny URL for you so you could easily click on that link. Now, a really great feature here is I can copy this to the clipboard. I can share this through Canvas, D2L, Schoology, and then we also have a Google Classroom integration. So I'm going to show this real quick. Since I told you I'd talk about Classroom and how we integrate, if you're using Google Classroom with your students, I can easily click on that Google Classroom icon. I can select the class that I want to share this with, and then select Create Assignment. Select Go in the bottom right corner, and look how nice that integration works. We're going to drop that MathSpace right into Google Classroom for students. So really a seamless integration. Kids will be able to access that MathSpace. And by the way, they're going to get their own personalized copy of that MathSpace to submit back to the teacher. Okay, so really, really good integration with Google Classroom. Again, however you want to share this link with students, I don't care if it's Remind, if it's another ed tech tool, however you share things with students, feel free to share that link out. When kids click on that link, they're going to get their own copy of the MathSpace. So important to keep that in mind. That being said, let's take a look now. You guys were all, I think, really good students today. Well, actually, we're going to find out, aren't we? So take a look at this. We have 152 people that love doing homework. So this is really cool. I actually wanted to test this and see how many assignments we could receive, hoping you wouldn't crash our system. But I didn't ask our developers today, but look at this. I, as the teacher, now how did I get here? Remember, I was on Spaces, and these are all the things that I created for my students. I can go to assignments, and the assignments is going to be the place where I'm collecting things. And you guys were all really wonderful students. We have over 152 people that turned this into me today, and look what I can now do. So hopefully, and I promise not to pick on anybody, well, let me pick on somebody maybe that I know on this webinar, and we'll see if people are really good at counting coins and using MathSpace. There's a guilty party here. I know her really well, did a webinar with her yesterday. Wait, where'd she go? Mary Lou, where'd she go? So Mary Lou, I know she's got a good sense of humor, so I'm gonna pick on Mary Lou here. And Mary Lou submitted a MathSpace and she actually got it right, which is wonderful, right? Wanted to give you guys something easy. So this is the piece that I think is really gonna be engaging for you all. Look at the window. When I clicked on Mary Lou's assignment, I now am entering the feedback window. So look what I can do. I can provide feedback on the spot, immediate feedback, which is critical so students can understand this. I can then send it back to Mary Lou for corrections. But Mary Lou got this right. So I'm going to open the equation editor as the teacher, and I'm going to provide her some written feedback. And I'm going to say, great job. She's going to love that I'm picking on her. Great job, Mary Lou. You did awesome. And I can then select this. Oh, you know what I should do? And I rarely do this in these webinars, is I should put the teacher name. So that way I can say, well, this is from the teacher, right? So I'm going to say, great job, Mary Lou. You did awesome, Mr. Shanafelt. And then what I can do is drag this and put this kind of over her work. I could put a check mark. What if I wanted to just annotate? So if I didn't want to give her this, I could escape and get rid of that. And what if I just wanted to give her a quick, hey, great job, quick check, and then I can send this back to Mary Lou. Now, how does Mary Lou check her feedback? How does she see that she got feedback from the teacher? Well, we had Chrome notifications working on this for a long, long time. I'm not sure if Mary Lou has her Chrome notifications turned on, but she may get a Chrome notification right here above the clock. If she doesn't get a Chrome notification, I think I sent that back to you, right? If not, I'm gonna send it again, Mary Lou. And then Mary Lou is going to see on her dashboard that she has submitted assignments under this tab. And she would have the opportunity then to click on her submitted assignments. And when she clicks on it, she's going to see that feedback in her dashboard from Mr. Shanafelt, so to speak, right? So she'll see that assignment where she got a green check mark, she turned in her work. So this is the feedback window, feedback view, and the loop, if you will, that you can have with your students in the remote learning process. Now we're going to cover the parent aspect here real quick. I want to show you how you as a parent might be able to supplement here. So let's say you're working with your student, you're having to provide some additional content potentially, or maybe some remediation, your student's not really understanding what's happening inside a math space. So what if you as a parent just use your son or your daughter's device, and you can go in here and access and create anything that you want using any of these shapes. I know a popular topic, so many kids struggle with fractions, right? What if I wanted to drop in a fraction circle? And I have a 4th grader who's working with fractions. Look what happens when I click on the fraction circle. And then as a parent, I could come over here and go, you know what? I'm going to give my son or my daughter 10 segments, and I'm going to shade 3 of those segments. And I'm going to see if my son or daughter can recognize that that's going to be 3/10 is shaded. So I could then work with my child and say, hey, my son's name's Austin. I could say, hey, Austin, do you know what fraction of that pizza or that pie is shaded? And my son could use any of these tools, the equation editor. He wouldn't use the Desmos graph obviously here, but could use the handwriting recognition, speech. This is the UDL approach that I've been kind of speaking to you about throughout this webinar, where they can use this vast quantity of input methods to respond to the teacher. There's a lot of math teachers that say, hey, I want to see the kids' handwriting. Okay, well then use the freehand drawing. So Austin could come over and do it's not a great looking 3, but he could do 3/10. He could come over here and do 3 front/10, and he could insert that. And he could drag that then over to the wheel. He could use handwriting recognition and do 3/10. That's of course going to make the same thing we already did here. He could use speech. So lots of different ways that my son could make the 3/10 and send that into the teacher, right? So think about from a parent perspective, if they're needing to provide some sort of interventions or some tools, you can use coordinate planes we have in here. We also have protractors so they can measure angles. So we have polygons, so different types of polygons. Kids could color them. They could even create different things. Our developers love to have fun. We were introducing a new tool the other day, and one of them sent over a yellow Pac-Man looking figure for some tools that we have. And now's a really good opportunity to show you guys a little sneak peek, since a lot of you are still on this call, and I appreciate it. Check out where we're headed with Math Space. I think you guys will love this little sneak peek. I'm going to give you a little bit of zoom here so you can see this. What is that? Actually, my daughter came in my office the other day and goes, hey, Dad, that looks like Google Slides. And I said, you're right, it does. So our developers are currently working on Math Space with multiple pages. You see that on the left-hand side? So maybe you'd say, Louis, one Math Space canvas just isn't enough. Well, what if I wanted multiple slides, a slide-like experience? So I will tell you that this is currently in QA from our development team, and I'm thrilled to be able to tell you that this is something that's going to be on the horizon for Math Space. So if you're in the camp, by the way, look at that clock that we're currently working on. Really, really cool here. It actually has a toggle on it that allows students to work with Roman numerals. We have number lines. This is a common thing I get. They're like, hey, Louis, I love the number line, but can you make a number line where the numbers are already there? Well, you guys spoke and we're listening. So we have a number line coming. We have a coordinate plane that's already labeled for students. So you guys speak, you give us the great feedback that you do, and we have those things on the horizon. Okay, not to mention the math space piece. So hopefully by you guys seeing this loop, which I thought would be really important for you to see in the webinar. So, we had a couple other, I think, submissions. I think I called you all out and 2 people submitted since. So we have 154 people. So obviously in a regular classroom, you wouldn't have to open 154 different tiles, but this is the audience that we have on the webinar today. So I could go through here and provide that immediate feedback for students. So really, really great stuff there. I'm going to drag over 3 more items and then we'll try and take some questions from you. So we do have a Canvas integration with our EquatIO product. In fact, I keep mentioning my kids. My daughter came in yesterday and goes, hey, Dad, how do you use EquatIO with Canvas? So I showed her how she could respond to her teacher's discussion in a Canvas module and insert a Desmos graph. The cool thing was her teacher doesn't know how to submit the graph to her, but my daughter's submitting it back to the teacher. And I'm hoping the teacher goes, hey, how'd you do that to my 12-year-old daughter? That would be pretty cool. So notice I have a webinar here. So I have like order of operations, I have a discussion, I have a page, I have an assignment, I have a quiz here. So I can go in here as an instructor and I can go and edit the quiz. And what I can do is access the Canvas Rich Content Editor, which many of you are probably familiar with. And I can access, for most folks, they're going to be able to access it right here under this downward V. We have it displaying here. So notice if I wanted to, I could go here and insert a EquatIO equation right inside of Canvas. So I told my daughter herself, I said, don't use their math editor because it's just kind of clunky and it doesn't have the prediction that ours does. So this is their math editor and then this is our math editor. So I'm gonna pop one in here and just show this to you real quick and take a look. What if I wanted to put this formula, Simpson's rule for integration, into Canvas? Now, look how quick I was able to make that using EquatIO. By the way, I did it so fast, you're probably like, what did he type in? All I typed in our prediction was SIMP, and Simpson's rule for integration popped right up. Imagine making this, well, actually, imagine writing this out on a piece of paper and pencil, right? Let alone making this digitally. But imagine making this entire formula using this editor. How long would it take you? I typed in SIMP. You're sitting here clicking through all the tabs trying to figure out, how do you do that? How do you make that symbol, and that sort of thing. So think about how EquatIO could really save teacher and student time here. So the other integration that we just announced last week is Brightspace D2L. A lot of friends north of the border up in Canada are loving Brightspace D2L, and we have some customers too in North America with this product. This is another LMS. So I'm inside of their LMS here, and when I go to add or edit a question, I'm going to go to add a specific type of question, and let's say I want a multiple choice question. Notice how I can just start typing solve for X, and watch how I can go and click on insert stuff, I think they call it here, which is kind of funny. So I'm looking to insert stuff. I'm going to access the LTI, and just like in Canvas, I can use EquatIO. What I love about Brightspace D2L over Canvas is I can take this LTI box and I can move it. In Canvas, you're blocking the actual question, which can be kind of difficult to work around and navigate. So I love how you can move that box in D2L, and then I can again type in correlation coefficient of sample, and I could insert that math right into the Brightspace LMS system. So really great integrations within Brightspace. And then finally, we have Schoology integration. So notice I'm in a Schoology course here. Well, actually I'm not, I'm gonna go into one. So here is an EquatIO course. And from a teacher perspective, I can add materials, I can add assignments, I can add tests and quizzes. EquatIO, just so you're aware, does not work under add assessment. There's some other pieces and limitations within Schoology. So add an assignment as a teacher. Actually, I probably should have gone into an existing, well, that's all right. So look here, I have an insert content button, which is their LTI editor, and then I can come over here and access EquatIO. So again, I can add, we'll just do the same one again, and I can insert math into their rich content editor as well. So we have all three of those integrations, and I have probably talked way more than I should have because I haven't had a chance to look at questions. Kira or Caitlin, do you want to come on and see if there's any questions in the last 5 minutes, and know that if they couldn't answer any of your questions in this webinar, that I will be happy. They'll share those questions with me, and I can come in and respond and just email you directly if there's something that I didn't get to or wasn't able to show you today. And the last thing, by the way, sorry, is we also work on iPads. So I almost forgot to tell you all that. So this math space that I just showed throughout the webinar, this workflow, students can access this on an iPad now. So that's really, really exciting. I know my son, if he was actually at his school right now, would have an iPad in his digital one-to-one learning environment, and he can access MathSpace on an iPad. So Kira or Caitlin?
Hi, Louie.
Hey.
Yep, we have had a few questions that have come through. The first one is, we're just wondering if you could share a little bit more information on how Microsoft users can use EquatIO and how they can insert equations as well as MathSpace into Office 365 docs.
Okay, so here's the bad news. We'll get to the bad news first, and we'll jump to the good news. We do have a Microsoft Word integration. MathSpace, however, does not work within the Microsoft Word document. In other words, I'm going to go ahead and open up a Microsoft Word document. I'm then going to go ahead and minimize everything here. I got too many windows open, and I have EquatIO as a Windows application installed. So watch when I double click on this. I'm going to open up my Word document, and you're going to see the Windows app for EquatIO open, and it's going to overlay right on top of my Word doc. For whatever reason, this Windows app, see how it takes a little bit longer than the extension, but notice how the inserting a MathSpace button is not there. However, when you go to equatio.texthelp.com, you can use Microsoft credentials to get into MathSpace. You just can't insert MathSpaces into the Office platform. But yes, this is going to all work the same for you guys that are Microsoft users. So I can go in here and access all the same formulas that I'm accustomed to using. The prediction is going to work the same. All the other input methods will also work the same. The MathSpace piece, though, is a little bit limited in terms of the integration within Microsoft.
Perfect. Thanks, Louie. And then we also had a question, if you could just tell us a little bit more about the graphing element within EquatIO.
Yeah, the graphing. So go back to Desmos graphing is what they're looking for?
Yeah, I think we just wanted a little bit more information on the fact that EquatIO's graphing element is specifically through Desmos and all the features that are available there.
Okay, yep. So yeah, let me just open this because it doesn't matter what doc I put this on. Let me go ahead and zoom back out a little bit so you guys can see this. I'm going to go back here. So I'm not sure if what I covered, if you're looking for a little bit more for Desmos, but the Desmos will do any sort of statistical analysis, anything that you can typically do within Desmos, you can actually bring over and work with inside of EquatIO. So let's do something maybe a little bit more complex or what students might be used to doing in a higher level class. If I show something like the sine of X, I also have some accessibility pieces here that I didn't really have time to go over, but this would show obviously a wavelength. So I can type in all sorts of different things within Desmos. I can even go out. If you guys have Desmos accounts, so for math teachers that have Desmos accounts, let me show you this. Let's go to start graphing and let me sign in here real quick. All right. Okay, so I'm logged into Desmos. This is actually a really cool example to show, not because I'm a big Winnie the Pooh fan, but I love the idea that I can open this graph. Now, the reason why I love this so much is, look, we have over 130 line items inside of Desmos. to make this graph. Watch what I can do here within my Desmos account. So if you guys are Desmos users, I can take this URL from Desmos, which is unique to this graph, and watch how I can copy the URL. I can go over here, open my graph editor, and I can bring Desmos graphs right into my Google Doc. So I'm going to click in this box and hit Control V, and I'm going to paste that URL, and look at that. That's going to copy all 130 lines from that Desmos login screen, and I can insert my Desmos graphs right into a Google Doc. So that type of integration is really, really unique, and we're happy and thrilled to be partnered with Desmos. Actually, you know what? That went into my Word because I copied and pasted from there. So that's for my Microsoft friend that asked that question. So look how I can take Desmos graphs and bring those over into EquatIO's either extension or Windows application. Go ahead, Kira.
Perfect. Thanks, Louie. Why don't we just do one more question here? We had just a couple of questions regarding what the pricing options were for EquatIO and if there was an option to potentially pilot the product as well.
Yeah, so typically, I mean, because I'm the product manager, I'm not really into the sales field. Typically, what you would want to do is contact either your territory sales director or regional sales director about pricing for our product. However, I can pull up a slide for you here. Let me try and pull that up. You're going to have to give me just a minute, Kira, and I will gladly pull up a pricing slide that I believe I have. So what I do know for you all that are interested in this, actually, you know what? I do have this a little more readily available than I thought. Let me open something that was just shared. Actually, that pitch deck, Kira, I think might be best because I think there's one in there, isn't there?
I believe there is. We can also, when we're sharing out the recording, just send more information on where you can sign up for a pilot or request more information from your sales team as well. And we can definitely include that in the follow-up. But I think that's pretty much all the questions that we have time for today. As Louis mentioned before, if we did not get to your question during this Q&A session, we'll absolutely send those on to Louis and answer some on our part as well, and we will get back to you personally with all the answers to those. But I would just like to say a huge thank you to you, Louis, for your presentation today. It was just awesome. And I wanted to thank everybody else for joining us. We will be adding the recording of this webinar to the landing page where you actually registered for the webinar tomorrow. And we're also going to be sending out kind of a wrap-up email on our series that we've been holding on remote learning next week with a link to that recording as well. If you'd like to access the recording tomorrow, you can use this link that I just shared in the chat box. And you can also register for another one of our webinars in that link as well. But just a huge thank you to everybody again, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.